Good afternoon, dear colleagues. We're glad to greet you in Ukraine Forum at the presentation of the unique for Ukraine educational program Public Administration in the Sphere of the Youth Policy. The participants of the press conference: Alexander Yarema, Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports of Ukraine; Maxim Cherkashin, the head of the Civil Organizations Educational Analytical Center of the Development of Hromadas; Alexander Kvasovsky, the candidate of the Economical Sciences from the Department of the Ternopil National University; and Strytkov, the representative of the program You Lead with Europe. So I give the floor to Mr. Alexander, please. Good afternoon, dear colleagues, dear participants of the press conference. Thank you that you are interested in such an interesting and important topic, that is, youth policy. I'd like to thank our colleagues from Ternopil part of the country, our colleagues from the civil sector, from the educational sector, for the support, the colleagues from You Lead, because it's very important for us to speak and to develop about the youth policy, grounding on the people who have enough level of knowledge, competence and skills, how to work with young people, how to unite youth to achieve certain aims of the development of Hromadas, the development of the country. Well, why this program emerged? We actively support it because we can see the lack of the staff who would really professional in that, who would be skilled, who can communicate with the youth using the language of the youth, who have an opportunity to excite those young people and to show how the participants of a young person could be in the life of the region, of the country, and how it can change the whole country, what our country perceives as these participants, why young people have to be active participants of the processes, and the people who can really change the country for the better. It's really important for us, for it to take place. That is how this program was developed, into the partnership, because neither the authorities on its own can't solve all of the issues, nor the civil society. Especially young organizations, of course, they can't achieve the aim on their own without the cooperation with the authorities. So the program was built in the way according to the partnership. So the participants of the projects are the representatives in equal proportions of the civil organizations and authorities. I mean both state authorities and local self-governance, which are responsible to implement the youth policy. For us it's really important, and this is the main principle, especially of the this principle of 50-50, of equality, which helps us to understand better each other, the principle which helps us to construct the dialogue, to construct the powerful partnership relationship. And another very important principle, I think my colleagues will speak more about that, is the combination of the formal and informal education. Our ministry has several programs created to support and develop informal education, and for us it's very important. For this program about the public administration in the youth policy sphere is emerging just now, and it's possible for us to be more active and more systematic to integrate all those developments which exist for today, just to look what we need to do together for those processes and reforms. And one of the key reforms, the reforms of decentralization which is taking place in Ukraine, for them to get the staff potential, for the young people to feel themselves involved into this reform, to feel that this is their reform and their sphere of responsibility and their opportunity. Changing the community, changing the Gromada and the approach to what is going on at the level of Gromada to change the country. Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Thank you. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Well, in fact, where did this project begin from? Why did we have such an idea as public administration in the sphere of youth policy? Our organization practically every week meets the representatives of amalgamated Hromadas, either on their own or together with the Association of Cities of Ukraine, and we could see a huge lack of staff. The youth is leaving the country. As an example, we can take Novosilsk, amalgamated community. We asked the youth, who of you is planning to stay in Hromada Not a single one of them. We asked under which conditions you will stay. They said under the conditions when they have certain opportunities or perspective. For today, Ukraine has created more than 700 amalgamated hromadas. Decentralization, in fact, is a chance to take and our youth to stay in Ukraine, because in villages we create structural departments which finally work with the youth and are responsible for the implementation of the youth policy at their places. There is the certain infrastructure in different state, of course, I mean the House of Culture and so on, and there is the issue of funding. But who in fact is dealing with the youth at the places? If the Department of Education is governed by the pedagogue, if the judicial department is in fact governed by the lawyer, if the medicine sphere is dealt by the doctor, who deals with the youth? Do really people have any of the necessary skills to implement the youth policy and to do the self-implementation of the youth in the Hromada? That is why we prepared this program, and I thank personally to Alexander Yarema for his help, even at the preparation stage, because the program was a bit different in the beginning. But thanks to his really reasonable remarks, we've changed it a bit, and for today we have a kind of a unique program, which is so far a pilot one, which consists of not only the classical academic disciplines, and also the teachers will be both the trainers, I mean the experienced and successful people who are working in the youth policy sphere for a long time, and especially a peculiarity is that the participants are not only the people who are working in the structural departments or the young activists, because unfortunately for today we train either the state officials or the young activists. The uniqueness of this program is that the state officials will be working together and training together with the young active people. So besides, they will know how to cooperate with each other. Not only the education will be the only one which will make the peculiarity. Between the sessions they will have certain tasks which they will implement in their hromadas on their own, and thus they will transform those theoretical knowledge into practical skills. The final accord of the educational program will be the graduation work, which would be connected with the development of the concept of the youth in Hromada itself. And also we do hope that we'll have bilateral connection both with the participants and the trainers to make certain conclusions and maybe to work upon this program more, because it's really unified. It suits both the people who deal with youth in Lviv, Zakarpattia, Donetsk, Dnipro, so we can cover the whole Ukraine thanks to this program. In more details, as for what it consists of, my colleague Alexander Krasovsky from the Economic University will tell about that so far. Thank you. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'm glad to greet you here at the presentation of the social educational project, Public Administration in the Sphere of Youth Policy, which is one of the first and unique projects for the youth which will be implemented in Ukraine with the support of the international program of YouLead with Europe. First of all, I'd like to thank the partners, I mean the civil organizations, Educational Analytical Center of the Development of Hromadas. I'd like to thank the Ministry of Youth and Sports. I'd like to thank the international program YouLead. I'd like to also thank the Committee of Verkhovna Rada, the Parliament of Ukraine, on the family issues, youth policy, sports and tourism, because just thanks to them, Ternopil National Economic University had such an opportunity to be involved and to take part in the implementation of this educational project. I'd like to uncover a bit the organizational of the technical issues. As for organization of this product, we've made a curricula according to which to implement this program we foresee 200 academic hours. I mean, including 100 academic hours in the auditorium during the daily education, and 100 is the remote work with the listeners between the sessions. So at the parity principles will involve the main and really skillful pedagogical workers, will involve the heads and managers of civil organizations, Maybe, if it's possible, we'll try to involve the MPs from the Profile Committee and the representatives of the Ministry of Youth Policy and Sports. So the trainers, the coaches and the lecturers will be rather diverse, and we hope that this diversity would allow the listeners to get the necessary knowledge and practical skills in the sphere of the implementation of youth policy at the places at the levels of the territorial hromadas. And also I'd like to say that we were trying to create the educational modules in a way that each session would give the knowledge which would become the foundation to gain new knowledge during the next session. So the first session, for instance, will be created to create the knowledge on the social psychology and juventology. And also they will study the issues of cooperation with the representatives of separate youth subcultures, psychology of the administration, strategy and tactics, forming of the image of the leader. And at the second session already, they will deal with the basics of the law studies, the management studies, organization of the activities of the youth organizations, and also we'll try to give them the informational technologies, program products of project management. The third session, which will deal, in fact, with the knowledge and practical skills which are connected with the implementation of the state regional youth policy. In fact, this is an organization of the work of the services in youth issues, the activities of the young youth organizations, the studies of the toolkit, how to involve the youth in the governance process in the territorial hromadas. So we tried to construct this logical scheme. The difference of the traditional training will be that we are going away from the principles to study, but we're going to the principle to be taught. So the listeners will get the necessary information, the necessary skills in the process of the interactive communication with the lecturers, trainers, coaches, and correspondingly they will interact with them. So we'll try to use such well-known innovative educational technologies as trainings, masterclasses, workshops, group debates and discussions. This will be brainstorming, focus groups, case studies, case technologies, and others, which I guess will help to open the potential of this educational project. If we speak about the intersession period of the remote way of education, the lecturers and the trainers will give certain tasks for the listeners at the intersessional period. This is writing essays, solving certain practical situations. Also, it will be the development and reporting on the certain projects which will be implemented in their hromadas and communities and the organization, and on their own certain trainings to the listeners of the project. And in the end of the day, they will write the graduation thesis, which will be according to the topic of the strategy of the development of youth movement in my territorial hromada. And thus this project will be developed by their own, and they will present it on their own. And also I'd like to say that from the side of the Ternopil National Economic University, towards the educational process, we'll try to involve one doctor of economic sciences, the professor, Grigory Monastyrsky, who is a very famous scientist, expert and professional in the problematics of the development of the territorial hromadas of the basic level in the modern conditions of reforms and transformations of the socium. And also will involve 12 candidates and one teacher. I must say that all of those scientific pedagogical workers have a very great experience in the pedagogical work. They have the skills and methodology of holding the trainings and workshops and other innovative interactive forms of education, and 6 of them, in fact, are working in the civil organizations. So they have a certain practical experience of the work in the civil organizations. And also I'd like to express my hope that this pilot project will gain overstate the state status, because further on it will be implemented at the constant basis and will be able to form the whole leadership group and highly qualified workers in the youth issue sphere of the new formation, new generation, which will be able to implement youth policy at the ground, at the places, at the level of the territorial hromadas. Thank you. Ms. Colt now.
Thank you very much. And good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to present together with our partner, the Educational Analytical Center for Hromada Development, our joint project, the public administration in the field of youth policy. And I'm also very grateful for the support that the Ministry of Youth and Sport shows, as well as the Ternopil University. You might be aware that the EU-LEAD with Europe, Ukraine Local Empowerment, Accountability and Development Program is a program that is commissioned by the European Union and its member states, Denmark, Estonia, Germany, Poland and Sweden. And our main objective is to provide support to the decentralization and the territorial reform that is currently implemented by the government of Ukraine, and one of the key reforms. It is not only certainly about administrative issues, about a reorganization of tasks and responsibilities, a reorganization of budget flows, but the final objective, the main objective of this reform is actually empowering the local level. It's about strengthening the local self-governance, yeah, and this means that this is about increasing the participation of people living in Hromadas, also in the newly amalgamated Hromadas, into issues of their community development. And that is the main reason why we are in a way supporting also the civil society sector in Ukraine, because this is a very important voice in order to make people heard and engage people in community development. And then obviously we are always speaking about the future. And the future, these are the young people, this is the young generation. And I'm very, very happy that we have gained the cooperation with your NGO in order to strengthen the role of young people in community development, because we want young people returning from their educational institutions, from university, from vocational trainings, back to amalgamated Hromadas to take on responsibility not only for their private lives but also for the community, for social life in the community, to make an active contribution to turning life in communities for the better. And therefore we are very hopeful that we are gaining the experience out of this project. And even though we are quite aware that this is just not a big stone in the overall setting of our support, we as EU-LEAD have decided to support also smaller projects, because within these smaller projects there might be the potential for upscaling similar efforts all over Ukraine and other regions. And we certainly will monitor this very closely together with our partner NGO to see where we have this upscaling potential and where we could apply the experience gained in this project also in other regions and in cooperation with other Hromadas. So we are very much looking forward to this project, and we cross our fingers, and we are pretty sure that everything will turn out as we now plan it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear colleagues. Maybe you want to add anything. Maybe we are now coming to the questions. A short comment, if I may. I would like to support and to agree with the opinion of Astrid that we want, and we are speaking that Hromadas and the youth is the future. It's very important that the young people today would be involved in those processes, because they should to project this future together with the people who are in charge of Hromadas, because they are giving those ideas and principles according to which the Hromada should develop. We are speaking about the creation of the mechanisms of the participants of young people in the decision-making process, beginning with the basic level. It's really important to understand that it's not enough just to create the mechanism, but it is important to train and to give this tool to the young people, to their hands, and that is why it seems to me it's really timely, it's really relevant to create and to issue such a curriculum and educational program. This is the tool which can be used, in this case as a ministry. And our colleagues from the Parliament, this year, they have the report for the President and for the Parliament is the participant of young people in the reforms process in Ukraine. And this will be the topic for the parliamentary hearings, which will take place in October this year. This is the topic which is the through topic in all of the questions of the formation of policy this year, but we are speaking and making the main accent that it should concern all of the levels, beginning with the Hromadas and ending with the national level. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Dear colleagues, do you have any questions? The question is... Unfortunately, we don't hear the question. The microphone is breaking. So, do you plan to implement this program in other regions of this program or the similar programs? If I may, I could answer, yes, you're totally right, and my colleagues told that you are right, this is the pilot project, according to which we'll be able to look and to take into account all of the issues which can emerge during the implementation. Maybe some of the blocks which would be a bit not useful, or maybe we would have to add something at the draft stage, or we just forgot to include anything. So it's really important for us to develop this mechanism, to work upon this mechanism, and then to speak and to implement it in different territories. We have a very active platform of communications between the youth all over the country. So again, I'd like to express my gratitude to ULEAD for their support, Dobre program and others, international partners, because we are creating such a huge informational database of opportunities, of communications and data. We're showing if there are certain nice examples how we can achieve success, then we can just take them and implement them, make them happen in other regions of Ukraine. It's obvious that we can see and we try to focus our attention upon this project, this program, as the first step to the upscaling of to the broadening of education and communication all over the territory of the country. And the next question, please. Hello, thank you for your speech. Would you please tell my name is Yaroslav Zhilo, I'm from Ukrmedia. How do you select the candidates? Which principles are used? I mean the age or the quantity. A couple of words about that. Thank you. Very soon we'll announce the contest, the competition, and the candidates will fill the forms. We try to look at the motivational part. Well, of course, there will be overall information, which organization they represent, the education they have, but the main thing is how the person will use the knowledge in practice further on. Besides that, it will be necessary to add the recommendations of the two people and to have an interview. After those stages, we'll have a certain commission, which will look at all of the candidates, will communicate with them by phone or by Skype, and then we'll take decision who will be the best for this program. If we speak about the age limits, this is 20-35 years. According to our legislation, this is the youth, and as we are created to work in the sphere of youth policy, first of all. Such age category, as for the activities, professional activities, they are representatives of the civil sector. This is an important principle, of course, and the representatives of the state authorities and local self-governance which deal with the youth policy. We have such a direction as youth work, and this program is really close to it. It will help to develop the direction of the youth work and young employees for this communication and cooperation to give an opportunity to disseminate youth policy, youth work at all of the levels. We are speaking at the medium perspective aim, beginning with each Hromada, for us to have at least one person, if it's a small Hromada, if it's a bigger one, one young employee on the 2,000 of people. This is our task, to have this ratio, to have the people who live in the Hromadas, who work in the Hromadas, and for them to understand these tools, for them to understand the psychological peculiarities of the young people, for them to understand the modern approaches of work with the young people. Are there any other questions left? Maybe the speakers want to add anything to conclude? No? Then thank you for your attention. Thank you so much. See you.